Hello, friends, and welcome back to Spaces Between. Today's episode is going to be a bit of a teaching episode about embodiment because I decided after interviewing Krista Rauschenberg, which was the episode before, when we were talking about why some people land in her sessions just more embodied. And to quote her, she says, "It's an individual thing, Gina. Some people who are more embodied probably haven't had the level of trauma in this lifetime as others. Like someone who's had severe trauma but hasn't processed it yet. There is a space that exists in them that is too terrifying to go back and want to revisit. It's a gentle act of surrender and softening to these spaces that hold pain, but that's the work. We all have to feel all of the feelings, the joy and the pain." So before I actually take a deep dive in today's content, I would like you to just, wherever you are, take a big, deep breath. Breathe it in and let it go. Why don't you take one more big, deep breath? Breathe it in and let it go. And just gently become aware of your physical body, whether you're seated, moving, or lying down. Allow your shoulders to relax, your belly and your eyes to soften. Take your hand and put it on your heart. Just notice your presence, your being right here, right now. Take a moment to simply appreciate this moment. After this, I'd like you to do a gentle and general body scan and get a tone of what's the feeling state of your body right now. Notice if the sensations feel neutral, constricted, expansive, vibrating, aching, or even pleasurable. Take note without telling a story of why the sensations are coming up the way they are in the body. Offer yourself compassion and neutral observation without telling stories of why the sensations are there. Take another deep breath in with me. Let it go. In our modern society, we have moved far away from the wisdom of our bodies. We live mostly in our minds at a rapid pace, consumed by online content, and often feel disconnected, dissatisfied, and missing the joy of being alive. Embodiment is quite the buzzword these days, and what does it really mean? There are several takes on it and several definitions. I'll offer a few that I researched. It means becoming whole, to have all parts of yourself online, to feel deeply and fully, which, funny enough, is also the panacea to our collective neuroses. Mind, body, and breath start to operate together and interweave. They become a unified team. When they are working together, we experience the same frequency as nature. The subjective aspect of the body and felt sense with mindfulness. The body is a key aspect of who we are. It's a set or form of intelligence, awareness of choice towards self and others, patterns, self-regulation, and really the question, how am I practicing all of this in my life? And my personal favorite, embodiment means that you recognize that you are here. You are not the mind, but you are the essence behind the mind. You are consciousness itself and the conscious observer. You have to bring attention to the body versus the mind running the show. Learning how to slow the mind, your soul essence uses the body to get the mind's attention. Next, I'm going to jump into the grandmaster of all embodiment teachers who I absolutely adore, Michaela Boehm. If any of you have watched the recent Netflix series on sex, love, and goop, yes, I just quoted goop, but it's an excellent show on sex and disconnection and really embodiment at the end of the day. So I really feel that Michaela is a master at what she does. She teaches it in such a rich and understandable way. She says, for the longest time, most psychotherapy modalities only concerned themselves with the cognitive processing of events, trauma, and family interactions. It was considered that talking about things would allow people to process and put the events in their proper place. How those issues influence the body and how the body informed the person's view of the issues were not a priority in treatment. Somatic therapies have changed the way we treat trauma of all kinds and brought awareness of how emotional and mental events affect the body. Most importantly, there is now widespread understanding of how the body stores trauma and unexamined or unfinished emotional material, and how the psyche moves away from the body until the trauma is released or resolved. These can be restored through neurofeedback and embodiment practices such as sports, art therapy, or unstructured movement. In this context, the term embodiment can be understood to mean coming back into the body. Of course, as long as we are alive, we are always in our bodies, but that does not mean we are aware of what is happening in our bodies. Embodiment is the process of becoming alive to the signals of our bodies. The awareness of the signals of the body can also be described as sensual recognition. Being with the full array of sensory and emotional perception, the sublime as well as the ugly, allows us to savor the full human experience, body, mind, and spirit, alive, open, and integrated. Why do we disembody? Depending on how much mental activity, stress, overwhelm, or trauma we experience, we might lose awareness of sensation in our bodies. This state can be anything from mild numbness to all the way full-blown disconnection and disembodiment. In psychology, the term for this is disassociation, which describes a wide array of experiences ranging from mild detachment from our immediate surroundings to more severe detachment from bodily and emotional experience. In mild cases, it can be regarded as a coping mechanism in attempting to manage, minimize, or tolerate stress, including boredom or conflict. In more extreme cases, we almost completely lose touch with what we are feeling. Most of us have experienced the loss of connection with the body while working intensely on a computer, because the body is essentially parked in a chair and the mind is focused on a task that is intensely cerebral. We might not notice bad posture, thirst, or aches in the body. Often, it is only when we stand up that we become aware of how little we felt while engaged. Mental activity can focus our awareness such that the body's signs and signals are no longer perceived. Triggers from previous trauma, everything from physical injury to emotional hurt to traumatic events, make us escape potentially painful sensations by numbing us to the sensations felt in the body. A tried and true numbing mechanism most of us employed is eating a pint of ice cream while watching a movie as a means of not having to feel the fullness of a stressful work situation or breakup. We use substances like ice cream, rich foods, or alcohol to drown out the signals of distress our emotional body is sending us. Overwhelm of any kind can drown out the signals of the body in the same way that loud noises drown out the quieter ones. In all of these instances, we are disconnected from the body's signs and sensations, and with that, we lose touch with the body's natural ability to feel an environment and judge situations accurately. what embodiment is not. Sometimes embodiment is confused with generating strong stimuli in order to feel something, which is not the same. In fact, certain types of vigorous activity can produce strong reactions in the body, which in turn can also drown out subtler sensations and signals. For example, if you go straight from your stressful job to a high-intensity spinning class, you will leave class with your body buzzing. However, the buzzing is a sign of an overtaxed nervous system and drowns out the signals of fatigue and potential physical misalignment. The key here is to become so familiar with your body and how much movement and sensory engagement is right for you. Refraining from pushing your body to the maximum has many benefits, among them the ability to feel subtle sensations. For instance, you may become aware of a certain numbness to sensations in your body and start doing yoga to come back into your body. As you engage in vigorous stretching, you can feel the strong sensations in your hamstrings, which are way louder than the subtle sensations of strain in your lower back as it gets taxed in the process. It is not until later, when the strong feelings in the hamstrings have subsided, that you can feel the pain in your lower back. Our practice must be done in such a way that our feeling connection to the body is not severed. Otherwise, we not only lose out on the valuable education process of getting to know our bodies and minds, but we also miss injury as it occurs in the moment, only to notice it in the aftermath when it's too late. The natural genius of the body has its own wisdom and systems of navigation honed by survival as our species developed over millions of years. Not only do we have an advanced predator warning system deeply embedded in our perception, but we also have an intricate nervous system that enables us to go from rest to flight in mere seconds. Our spidey senses are much more effective than any conscious cognitive function. Even though we have lost access to many of these fine perceptions, they are still as present as ever, and we use them without knowing. For instance, most people will still perceive it when someone stares at their back. Being observed from behind is one of the oldest threats humans have faced. Walking around and being watched by a stealthy predator about to attack was a reality for much of the evolution of humankind. Try focusing your attention by looking intently at the back of someone's neck. He or she might not know why, but will turn around and look at you. Only the person who is totally distracted or numbed out will no longer sense the potential threat. For most of us, the body is still an instrument of finely tuned feeling. All right, friends, so that was a lot from Michaela, but hopefully you got a deeper and richer understanding of the science and the somatic practices around what embodiment really means, which I'm now going to go into some practices for you that you can try at home. And I think it's really important, especially for those who don't like to have a seated meditation practice. Getting into your body and slowing down can be hugely beneficial. So the first one is hip circles. And what you do is stand barefoot with your feet hip width apart. Bring your hands onto your hips and begin to make circles. Start out with small, subtle motions and widen the motion only as your hips awaken to the movement. The key here is not to force your body to open faster than it wants to. Particularly since we sit for long periods of time, it's important to not wrench the hips open. As your hips awaken, you can experiment with different motions. Try going faster or slower than you normally would. Move your hips in figure eights, and if you feel like having fun, try writing your name with your hip movements. Make sure your feet are solidly planted on the ground. When you are ready to finish, make the movements gradually subtler until you come to complete stillness. Stand with your eyes closed and feel your body. Notice all of the different sensations within your body. Where does the body feel pleasurable and alive? What areas of the body feel tight? What emotions can you feel as you stand quietly? All right, next one is breath, because breath is what animates our physical body. Your first breath is what gives you life when you come into the world, and when you die, the last thing to leave is your breath. Our breathing is reflective of our state of being. Notice your breath right now. Is it shallow or slightly pinched? How does it change when you get excited, nervous, or stressed? When you speak to a loved one or have a confrontation with someone? When we want to feel less, we stop our breath. Just think of all the moments during the day when you are overly concentrated in front of a computer or worried about something or scared. Often we hold, and that's natural. The beauty about breath is not only about how we feel affects our breath, but also how we breathe affects how we feel. So become a master of your breath, and then we become masters of the state of our being. So next one, movement, and I'm also going to focus on non-linear movement, which I took some classes with Michaela, and it's just amazing. Okay. So movement, again, you don't want to think of these like extreme kind of pushing yourself into a spin class or running. Movement that's a bit more subtle. So I'm going to go with the non-linear movement, which all you do is put a yoga mat on the ground and some music that doesn't have lyrics, some sort of relaxing music, and get on all fours. Now, again, I'm very much simplifying her process, but anybody can do this, and just get on all fours, put the music on, close your eyes or put a blindfold on, and slowly start to move your body to the beats. And continue to do this. Michaela runs hour-long classes, which you will be amazed what happens in an hour-long class. I came out and my partner looked at me. Again, he always thinks when I dive deep into things, Gina is on drugs. But it was amazing. I've never felt more sensual, more in my body, more relaxed. I felt like my nervous system had just gotten smoothed out. So it's simply that. Get on all fours and move to the rhythm start with 15 minutes. Start with even 10 minutes a day, and you'll notice a difference. Okay, next one is felt sense, which this is a little bit redundant at this point, but I just want to explain to you what felt sense is, which is awareness, witnessing the self, sensitivity, tracking the present moment. So felt sense means your ability to directly experience the physical sensations of your body. All right. So it's this direct experience, as in Vipassana meditation. That's what they talk about. So notice an example would be if you're feeling angry. Okay. So what does the anger feel like in your body? What are the sensations present that let you know you are angry? If you start becoming aware of the felt sense, you start tracking this part of your experience in the present moment. You may notice that anger feels like there's heat in your face, your fists get clenched, or your jaw becomes tight. Potentially your heart starts pounding. Take sadness. A lot of people feel heaviness in the chest, a tightness in the throat, tears starting to come to the eyes. So why is it important to notice these things? Because when you start reclaiming this kind of sensitivity to your body's language, you create the space between the present moment physical sensation and the emotional energetic charge that your mind is attached to. So it's much easier to work with physical sensations than with emotions, because it's much harder to judge our physical sensation than our emotions. So an example is, ooh, it's bad that I'm angry and I'm such a bad person because I always experience anger. I just want to get rid of this. I just want this to go away. I shouldn't be feeling like this. Versus if you bring a little bit of curiosity to it, oh, interesting. I'm noticing that my heart is beating really fast. I'm noticing that my mouth is dry. Again, you're pulling out of the story of it. So physical sensations are never stagnant. They move and they change constantly. So if you feel stuck with your anger, and if it feels hard to shift that because there's so many stories and fears attached to it, when the moment that you become aware on the bodily level, you can breathe through it and you tap into the physical sensation of anger. All right. So last one I would say is relationship to yourself. Establishing a much more compassionate, loving, humorous, trusting, a space of equanimity and radical self-acceptance. Excuse me, I'm getting towards the end of this. So, ever heard of the saying, resistance creates persistence? That's exactly what starts happening to us. We feel, we don't like it, we resist, we try to get rid of it, we try everything to fix it, heal it, release it. It will not work. With difficult sensations inside of us, we need to meet it with loving kindness and compassion. Equanimity channeled through the heart becomes compassion. It's radical self-acceptance fueled by the trust that will allow you to relax enough for things to move in their own divine timing. However difficult the sensation in the body, the emotion, or your story, if you surrender and simply feel without judgment, but with compassion, you take one step closer to love and perfection of your true nature. And ultimately, once you come to the realization that you can't win the battle with yourself, even if you go to war with your mind, you will be at war forever. So, I'm going to give an example of something that I love to go to war with each month, and I think a lot of women do, which you guys have heard me talk about this, is PMS. And I recently read on a woman's website, PMS is not real, it's fabricated. And I almost smashed my laptop on top of contacting her. And I realized in that how much the attachment to the story and in my mind and the energy around PMS, I went, okay, Gina, let's take a breath. Let's investigate what's going on in the body, the sensations versus the story of PMS. And it's pretty wild because I've done this practice a lot, but I think since I've been so deep in this embodiment research, really, truly, once I allowed myself to feel the sensations versus going into the story of what happens to me when I PMS, which is my lens of the world, my relationship, everything just becomes dark. It's like a dark, dark, dark cloud. And once I pulled away from that and I just felt the sensations in my body, I brought it breath, I brought it acceptance, and I even said to myself, you know what? I might not ever be able to fix this, heal this, or eradicate this from my system. No matter how many herbs I take or cut out the gluten, dairy, alcohol, caffeine, la-di-da, it's just here. So how can I bring this equanimity and breath to it? So I just want to say, it doesn't always happen in that simple of a process. And I had been really battling it last week. But I think when I stopped resisting and fighting it, it was yesterday actually that I finally felt at ease. So I want to leave you on that note, which just whatever you're struggling with right now, bring some presence to the sensations in your body for lack of being redundant. Take some time to get slow, take breaths, and practice some of these embodiment practices so you can really feel more connected and more whole and happy and joyful and alive. All right, that is it for today. Lots of love to you all in this holiday season, and see you in 2 weeks. Hi, friends. If you have been enjoying Spaces Between, please take a moment to subscribe, and leaving a review is the cherry on top. Thank you so much, and I look forward to connecting with you next week.